Hey everyone, this is Nick, and we're now 8 billion on this earth. And if you don't want all these babies to grow up to be Windows users, you better start liking and commenting under this video so it can reach them and they can get the latest Linux and open source news like everyone else. So this week we have the French Ministry of Education telling teachers and schools to stop deploying Microsoft Office 365 and Google Docs in classrooms. We have Google paying a huge amount to settle a privacy violation where they collected location data when they say they didn't, and we have VLC finally being unbanned in India, among a lot of other topics. So let's get started, but first, a word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by TuxCare and AlmaLinux. AlmaLinux is an open source enterprise Linux distribution which is completely binary compatible with Red Hat Enterprise Linux and CentOS, pre-CentOS Stream. It's owned and governed by the community, and it's supported financially by Cloud Linux and other sponsors. While you can use AlmaLinux for free on your servers or desktops, TuxCare offers a range of services around it to ensure that you get live patching without any reboots or downtime, as well as 24/7 365 support, so you can manage your fleet without any stress. So, click the link in the description below to learn more about AlmaLinux and TuxCare's support options. Looks like France might be cracking down on Microsoft Office Online and Google Docs. The article is in French, and it's a question asked from a representative of the Assemblée Nationale, the French Parliament, to the French Ministry of Education. The question boils down to: any student and teacher can create a free account on Microsoft Office Online or Google Docs, but isn't it a form of dumping from these companies that is anti-competitive? And there's also the fact that no call for bids was made, which is something that needs to happen when finding a solution for public institutions in France. And that these US-based companies store data on US cloud, and thus might not follow GDPR, which is the European law on privacy. The answer from the French Ministry of Education reads like this: all contracts for public services must be subjected to a call for bids, and use paid solutions to ensure good service quality and support. They say that Office 365 isn't conforming to the necessary regulations because it doesn't have a EU qualification to be used in public markets. They also insist that the CNIL, the French data protection body, recommends that all public institutions use EU-based online services that don't transfer data to the US. And they say that the ministry asks to stop any deployment of Office 365 and Google Docs that just simply don't follow GDPR. They conclude by saying that the choice of solution depends on what we call in France collectivité territoriale, basically governing bodies for each region of France, and that these entities must provide solutions that do follow GDPR. Now, if this answer from the French Ministry of Education is to be followed, it means that teachers and schools will not be able to force the use of Office 365 or Google Docs upon students in computer classrooms, although students can still decide to use that for their own personal use. That's not restricted here. It's still a pretty great win for open source solutions, which are basically the only viable alternative to these proprietary solutions, at least if this ruling is enforced and applied. But still, it's legalese, and even though I read French, I'm not super well versed in the law and the way they phrase things, so it might take someone with more legal chops to make sure that I didn't misinterpret anything here. Google will pay almost $400 million to settle the allegations that it breached its users' privacy. The monster amount might sound like nothing for the company, but it's still pretty enormous and will be paid to 40 United States states. Google was collecting location data from Android users even when they had opted out of that, let's call it feature, and they were not informing users that they were doing it, misleading people to believe they were private when every move they made was still tracked. They said that they settled the investigation, which was based on outdated product policies they changed years ago, but it's corporate speech for "we know we did it and we would have lost in court." Google also paid $85 million last month to Arizona for the exact same issue. The Attorney General leading the case said Google was crafty and deceptive and secretly recorded users' movements to use that data for ads. And she added that they've been doing it since 2014. Google has been told to significantly improve user controls and how it discloses location tracking, starting in 2023. And that's what they announced in a blog post, where they say they will create a single hub to manage location settings, as well as to simplify the deletion of location data. And they will be clearer with new created accounts about the web and app activity, what it is, what it contains, and how it, as they say, helps their Google experience. While this amount of money probably doesn't hurt Google that much, let's be honest, it's still good because it puts their privacy violations on the map for everyone else to be reminded of, and if it forces them to be a little bit more transparent in the future, I guess that's good. India finally lifted their ban on VLC 9 months after they had blocked the official website for the application. The company behind VLC, Videolan, had filed a legal notice demanding to know why they were banned, since they didn't receive any prior notice or explanation or even a hearing, which is against the Indian Supreme Court ruling. The website was banned by most major internet service providers in India, which had resulted in almost 80% less traffic and presumably less downloads of the application. We still don't know why VLC was blocked in the first place, but the main explanation everyone seems to agree on is that a Chinese hacker group was using a modified version of VLC to gain remote access to the victim's computer. Now, punishing VLC for this would be like blocking Windows in every country where pirated copies are distributed with Trojans and keyloggers inside. It makes no sense at all, but it looks like this is what was happening. The block resulted in Indian citizens looking for VLC in insecure places instead of the official website, potentially making the situation worse. All in all, it's a good thing that this is over. The action was completely decorrelated from the problem and actually made the problem worse, which is probably why policies on software should not be made by anyone who doesn't understand technology at all. Fedora 37 was finally released after a long delay. I can definitely say that it was worth the wait. The new version brings GNOME 43 and all its goodness, like quick settings, which make using the main menu a lot easier, pagination arrows in the app grids, better performance, better multi-monitor support with different scaling factors, a full transition to libadwaita, the device security panel in the settings, a completely revamped and much better Nautilus file manager, and updates to most of the core apps. On top of that, Fedora 37 now supports the Raspberry Pi 4 officially. They updated all packages in the repos, and they use the Linux kernel 6, at least after you update the system. They also now provide a KVM server image to make it easier to run Fedora, and there are 2 new additions, Core OS and Cloud. Core OS is meant to host container-based workloads and has an auto-update mechanism. And Cloud is just a base you can run in any public or private cloud like AWS. I've been using Fedora 37 ever since GNOME 43 was released, and I really enjoy it. I recently updated my desktop to it, which was still on Fedora 36, and the update was painless basically. I clicked a button, I restarted, and everything worked, including DaVinci Resolve, NVIDIA drivers, games, all my GNOME extensions, which admittedly I don't have that many. Everything just worked. It's just a really awesome distro. It looks like Flathub is going to start having verified applications and a nice little badge to show users which apps are coming from the original developer. The first app to exhibit this is Kodi, the media center/home theater app, and you can already see the badge itself on beta.flathub.com. I guess it will take an update to the various software stores to be able to display that kind of information as well. The verification process is relatively simple. A developer who wants their app to be verified on Flathub just has to prove they control the domain of the Flatpak application and that they own the app and its respective GitHub or GitLab repo. There will also be a manual verification process to allow external packagers that publish officially but don't necessarily have the rights on the GitHub repos. The front-end code is already merged, so the part that displays the badge basically, but on the back end the work isn't yet complete, and there are some discussions to know whether this verification can extend to GNOME extensions, for example. Now this is a fantastic step forward because it means that Linux users will finally be able to know who made the application that they downloaded, whether it's been repackaged by a third party, by a distro, or if it's the official developers shipping it. And that's extremely important to be sure that you don't download something that has been tampered with. The new laptop from StarLabs is now available. The StarFighter, as they call it, is a device custom made to run Linux. It has its own chassis covered in ceramic through a technology called plasma electrolytic oxidation, which results in something harder than steel and resistant to fingerprints. It has a nice port selection with USB-A 3 ports, Thunderbolt 4 ports, HDMI, Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.3, micro SD, and of course an audio jack. It can use a 12th gen Intel CPU, i3, i7 or i9, and a Ryzen 7 6800H. It starts with 16 gigs of RAM and can go up to 64, and its default 240 gigs of storage can be upgraded to 4 terabytes. The display can be either 4K at 60 Hz or QHD at 165 Hz, and in both cases it's 16 by 10 and 600 nits of brightness. It can run Core Boot and it has up to 18 hours of battery life, and it also has a removable webcam through a magnetic connector that is just a USB bus, so you could replace that webcam with a better one in the future or have other accessories if StarLabs decides to make any. You also get a kill switch for the wireless connection and a nice looking backlit keyboard, plus the usual glass trackpad from StarLabs, which I really liked on the devices I reviewed from them. It starts at 1,646 euros, taxes included, although it looks like there is a discount right now. It looks like a really cool laptop, so I'll ask them if I can get a review unit and make sure that everything is top-notch, as it usually is with StarLabs. Except for the mic and webcam, but these seems like they have been upgraded, so we'll see. Unity 7 is now available as a desktop that you can install on Arch. Previously it was only on Ubuntu, specifically used by the no official Ubuntu Unity flavor, but now Arch users can enjoy it as well. You will have to add a repo to Pacman first, and its repo key, and then there's a meta package that will install everything for you. It's the latest version, 7.6, which isn't just a repackaging of the old Unity 7 Ubuntu used to develop. It received visual updates, tons of fixes, it runs on modern computers, and all the small things that broke over the years are now fixed. I took a look at it a few months ago and I found it's still a really good desktop, especially since the developer is replacing the GNOME apps by alternatives that work well with the global menu, one of the main features of Unity and one I still miss on GNOME to these days. If you want to see this video look at how Unity holds up over time, I left a link in the description below and there should be a card somewhere for YouTube viewers. Okay, let's move on to the gaming news. First, we have a nice update to the Steam Stable client with a new big picture mode option. It's broken on NVIDIA graphics for now, but you can use it on Intel or AMD GPUs. All you have to do is add the -new big picture as a launch option, or -gamepad UI if you prefer this UI to start by default. It's basically just the Steam Deck UI, so it's really good for use with a controller. On top of that, there's a giant list of bug fixes and improvements. Wine 7.21 was also released with the OpenGL library converted to the PE executable format. There's support for multi-architecture PE builds, some work to support Vulkan 32-bit on 64-bit architectures, and 25 bugs were fixed, including for Starburn 13, Hotel Giant 2, Gothic 1, Hades, Visual Studio, or Adobe Reader. It's really nice to see that new Steam Deck UI making its debut on the default Steam desktop client, because it's a really nice interface, so it's cool to have it officially and not in beta anymore. And I hope they can fix the issues with NVIDIA GPUs, because I would like to repurpose one of my old laptops that still has a very good GPU to run as a Steam console. But I can't for now because NVIDIA support is completely borked. For now, I use my Steam Deck, but games upscaled on my 4K TV, they just don't look that great, and I would love to have a dedicated device to play games on the TV instead of the deck. And if you want a dedicated device to run Linux, check out today's sponsor. Tuxedo is a company based in Germany, and they make laptops and desktops that run Linux out of the box. and they ship them worldwide. And the difference with buying any old Windows laptop, something that's been designed to run Windows, and slapping Linux on it, is that basically when you buy from Tuxedo, there is no guesswork. You know that the device will run with Linux. You slap your distro on it and it runs. You don't have to look at forum posts online to check components, to make sure that this device is supported, but maybe this small revision has something incompatible. You buy it and it runs. And they have a big range of devices that should satisfy every needs, every price point, with tons of customization options, including your own logo on the back of your laptop, or even your own custom keyboard layout laser etched on the keys. So if you need a new device, you want to support Linux development, and you want to make sure that it runs Linux well, click the link in the description below and buy yourself a Tuxedo laptop or desktop. So, thanks everyone for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't hesitate to like, to subscribe, to turn on notifications, to write a comment. And if you didn't like it, well, you can also dislike the video and tell me why in the comments as well. And if you want to help support the channel, you can always click on the super thanks button on YouTube, on the PayPal link in the description, or join my Patreon members and YouTube members. Both get access to a weekly podcast where I talk about Linux, open source, tech, my personal life, the channel, other platforms, alternatives, whatever floats your boat, it's in there. And you'll also get to vote for the topics that I'll cover each month on the channel. So if that's something that you might be interested in, all the links are in the description as well. And in the meantime, thank you guys for watching, and I guess you'll see me in the next one. Bye!